It used to be that only a very few amount of people had access to computing power. Supercomputers of yesterday were only available to very few with significant funds, right? And then we got, personal computing power, and that circle enlarged. And then we got mobile computing power, and again, the circle enlarged. But something else significant happened, which is that it wasn't just that the circle enlarged, but that those who reached mobile computing technology didn't ever have a supercomputer or a personal computer, right? So we can't think of it as an extension of a market, but rather the creation of an entirely new market. And that requires not an extension of banking services and products or insurance products, but actually the creation of an entirely new model to serve this segment of customers and the jobs that they need to get done.
I mean, who doesn't have a smartphone these days? On average, we look at our phone once every 12 minutes. These are powerful devices for consumers. The priority they have in people's lives could open new markets for the life insurance industry. Hello, I'm Ross Campbell, leading on digital at Gen Re and your host for this podcast series. Join me on an audio adventure that restrings highlights from our global research into compelling considerations for the future, for discussion and exploration with you, your team, your company, and our innovation partners. Episode 5 of 10.
We're starting with a society that is now effectively mobile first, technology first. We have, if you look at the likes of Cambodia, Vietnam, the number of people there who have a mobile or have two mobiles and have never had a computer, it's huge. So the solutions that are being built for these people are not solutions that mirror what we've seen in more developed economies. And when you talk about fintech and insurtech, the solutions we've seen in Europe and the US, they're not applicable for a lot of these people because the needs are not the same. So really the potential is a new opportunity, and I think it's incredibly powerful.
If you think about a technology solution in the future for the African continent, it has to include a mobile solution, the way you deliver products, maybe the way you collect your premiums, the way you pay claims and so forth. That solution has to be part of a disruptive play in Africa over and above the traditional solutions.
It's easy to think of the mobile phone as an enabler in emerging economies and markets, while at the same time underplaying its enormous power in the developed world too. Our research has shown that as an industry, we've been slow to connect with the power of mobile, and are in fact significantly behind this innovation and interface curve.
It's almost mobile first. How can we use the mobile as keep things as simple as possible going, so we have to look at mobile capability. It's absolutely the way people are wanting to engage in other industries. I think life insurance is behind. If you look 3 years ago, we had no mobile capability. Now it's everything we do has to be delivered via mobile.
Aviva's going to do that in Hong Kong, and they will sacrifice all their legacy and move to a 100% smartphone approach. That will trigger all the big insurance companies to question, what's really the potential here? And if they can make it simple enough with no application forms, as they claim, everyone will start to move in that way.
Every day, while we go about things, our phones generate and store huge amounts of personal data. It's enormously powerful. Here's some ways smartphones and digital devices may positively influence how we do business.
We are always on, as humans, as citizens, as people. We are being continuously tracked, and we are generating a continuous stream of data. No matter what you do, where you go, you are leaving a footprint. And that footprint is just astonishing. It can be astonishing in its depth and its breadth. And in the hands of some pretty basic statisticians, the quantum of data we as humans are generating can become very predictively powerful. But that idea that we are being observed, I think to me is the defining thing at the moment.
The demand for instantaneous gratification, the demand for a technology, particularly mobile-driven solution, the demand for kind of mass customization so that you know about me as an individual rather than off-the-shelf solutions, the move from packaged products bought one at a time to subscription service-based delivery of movies and music. All of those things are influencing the way that consumers deal with institutions, and I think the insurance industry is facing that as much, if not more, than other industries, because we don't have a physical good. We only have a virtual good. So that's one thing which I think is a huge change.
You know, one of the things, we call it social media. It is a connecting communication platform, generally open architecture and generally pretty much globally available. Anyone with reasonable knowledge of the workings of insurance and some kind of a cash flow engine can effectively create an insurance company. They don't need licensing, so they won't be worried about RDR, they won't be worried about phase, they won't be worried about SAM, because it'll actually just be a bunch of people together pooling their money. And it probably will be a more profitable pool because there won't be a them and an us, it'll just be an us and an us.
Okay, so something of a wake-up call, all this power in the hands of the consumer. So how best to adapt the way we work to fit into this new interactive and data-rich world?
We've always been a very data-intensive industry, but we've used it for us. So we've used it to underwrite, we've used it to price, we've used it to understand your risk. And I think as what's happening now is that data needs to be put to work for different uses. So we need to put that data to work for the consumer to help them make better decisions, get more bespoke product, and make our service that we provide much more tailored to what consumers need and more dynamic to their ever-changing needs.
We now have got such a proliferation of data that is almost redefining how we think about risk, and the potential in there is huge, but we need to learn to cope with that level of data, and we need to incorporate that into our models and how we build products and how we price and how we think about risk overall.
I think there's quantum leaps that'll be taken in the next few years around how we integrate into external data sources and what we use that data for to get into the predictive space. Insurers have traditionally been homes of data, but this is less about being a home of data and being more about integrating with other data sources. So it's a capability shift, and it's a shift that I think will happen in the next few years. As health data becomes more and more prevalent, more available, that'll have a transformative effect on the life insurance industry.
If a quantum shift in capability is really going to happen in the next few years, then there's very little time to lose. At least the AI experts are optimistic.
With insurance companies having large legacy systems that are really not ever going to change, because systems by their own definition were always designed to self-protect and to self-perpetuate, and not to be open system, not to be open to innovation. So what the artificial intelligence players like us have done is gone, all right, well, what if we built a piece of software that sits on the front of your legacy systems and actually does things like API calls into the systems, thereby overcoming the siloed nature of the legacy systems problems. And then the customer has a seamless interaction with a machine or a journeying platform that is actually enables these legacy systems to provide information to it. And then what if the machine learning capability can start to automate the relationship between these legacy systems and the front end system, we call it sort of the last mile to the customer platforms that sit on the front. What if that can be automated and the machine learns and starts to make that a lot more efficient and effective than it previously was? In that way, we can see artificial intelligence can be used to help large companies innovate, whereas just tinkering around in your own massive systems is going to take an enormous amount of time and effort.
Smartphones and digital devices are prolific data generators. Obviously, this data is valuable to the insurance industry. And it is for consumers too, because it gives new potential and increased bargaining power. How can we meet in the middle so that the data can benefit us both?
Money is information, right? And that's why data will become a currency in and of itself. In fact, it already is. We trade our data every day to get something of value. Whenever you log into a website using your Facebook login, you're giving up your data in order to get value and the information they're willing to exchange. You're exchanging information, they're exchanging information. And that will be a future that will continue to expand and grow.
So personal information is an extremely valuable asset. Currently, that asset is being, to a large part, owned and controlled by institutions that have kind of decided that they will take ownership of that because they get us to sign terms and conditions. And there's now a backlash against this. There's a backlash because of privacy, because we've seen how information has been hacked and how it's been used in ways that ordinary people didn't expect their information to be used. And so governments are stepping in to try and help protect individuals. So the privacy laws, the Protection of Personal Information Act in South Africa, the General Data Protection rules in the European Union, and many more that are now suddenly becoming important, are creating a new paradigm around this, around who owns and controls the information. So privacy is really just about ownership and control. Individuals can reclaim our personal information and then make it useful for ourselves.
So not only are our smartphones a constant digital companion, the data we generate now shapes something of real worth. Who knows how sophisticated the next generation of devices will be?
It's crazy for us not to be thinking of a future generation that everything they touch, wear, do, swallow will have some sort of data associated. And as we're pulling that closer to the self, the sovereign self, it's a component of who we are, our identity.
The digital landscape is evolving in some unexpected ways. How can we capture this new value? We really want to talk to you about digital. Call your local Genry office to make that happen, or get in touch with me direct. And please join me in the next podcast to hear more insights.